What is debugging? Debugging is how you can solve problems when your code is not working. Let's take a look at some techniques. We'll pop into some code. Now, the very first thing that you can do for debugging always is to zog or console.log. So that looks like this. Zog, whether we're here or not. Here is fine, semicolon. And we save that up and let's view it in a browser. And then hit F12. So F12 is your console, and indeed we got here. So F12 in general can help you. It will show you errors and also allows you to find out sort of where you are in your code. Okay, that's the simplest way to debug, is just put in a zog and find out if you're here. And you can find check values as well. So for instance, if we've got stage height there and we're not sure what that is, we put in the stage height. Now you can also pass in two or more things here. So let's check both the stage width and the stage height. Now, did you see what I did there? I did not go stage width because I might have typed it differently. If you're really wanting to test what's in there, you double click it, copy, and paste. Double click, copy, and paste. And that way you know you have the same thing that you've typed here. Because often, especially if you're beginning, often debugging problems are just typos. Okay, so there we are zogging two things at the same time, and we save that. And we take a look at it in our browser, refresh. 1920 by 10, whatever that is. 1060, 1080 probably. Okay, how about that? That's another point as well. It is hard to code when your code is this small. So when it's this small, it's hard to tell if these are periods. It's hard to tell if that's a colon or a semicolon, that kind of stuff. So I've seen a lot of people code, and things like this. Their resolution is so big, and they're only coding on a quarter of their screen, and it's just sort of like, yeah. Now, of course, as you increase your size, you see less things. So you need to strike a little bit of balance. Obviously, you don't want it like this big where you're constantly scrolling back and forth between things. For me, I've got the code a little bit bigger for you guys so that in the screen capture you can clearly read, hopefully, what I'm typing here. All right, so that's zogging. Now, anyway, we've seen the console with the F12. There are various debugging consoles, or like arrangements and ways that you can stop code at certain breakpoints and things like that. I'm not sure what I have in terms of that in this environment. I've, to tell you the truth, never used that for debugging. I've always been just fine zogging my values when I want to see them. Okay, and zog, by the way, is a shortcut for console.log. Console.log, which I don't like typing. Now, another tip, I suppose, if I were typing console, I type in C-O-N, and there's console. And I hit console, and then I go .log. Now, this, I was just going to say, look what it did for me. This is Adam, and you can get console.log by going log, seeing the log, and hitting enter. And that way, it can be quicker to type, and you're not going to get an error doing that. And same with a variety of commands. So sometimes looking at your tooltips is helpful because you're not going to do a typo on various commands and stuff like that. Okay. Now, a few specific things to look out for is the assignment operator versus the comparison operator. So if you're saying if x is equal to 5, then zog true. Okay, so imagine we already had x var x is equal to 6. So that should not run. If we run it here and view it in a browser, refresh. Something's missing. See anything? Oh, zog true. Semicolon outside, refresh. True. True. X equals 5, but x is 6. Do you see what's happened? You're using the assignment operator. So this is putting 5 into x, and 5, and therefore what's inside these round brackets evaluates to true because 5 is equivalent to true, everything but 0 is. So that means this is true and therefore it's zogging true. Okay, you probably meant the double equals to 5. If x is double equal to 5, so that's the comparison operator. And we save that and refresh, and now it no longer says true. So some languages or some authoring environments will give you a warning when you do that, or even not let you do that. Okay, is specific more to Zim and so forth, Create.js, and that is we have something called stage.update. So if we make a var circle equals new zim.circle, well, a couple things here, and we expect to see this. We do have, in this case, we do have a stage.update way down at the bottom. Where'd it go? We have a stage.update way at the bottom. But if I refresh this now, I've got all sorts of other things in this. I won't be able to tell. But anyway, I do not see the circle. And the reason why it could be behind things, first of all, but it also could be because we did not add child. So we didn't add this to the stage. So if we go stage.add child, or any of our techniques for adding something, such as circle.center on the stage, that kind of stuff. Add child circle, like so. Let's see if we see the circle. Yeah, there it is, a little circle up in the top left corner, 0, 0. Okay, so that adds. Now, if we didn't have a lot of letters and stuff, if we didn't have that stage.update right at the bottom, this is what we would see. Refresh. Nothing at all. So before we see something, we need stage.update. So if you can't see something on the stage, that could be a reason why. And there it is with the stage.update. Just undo out of this, get the rest of my code back. I'm piggybacking on the what is animation. All right, where do we get to? So here we are. Oops. Let's see. Other debugging techniques is you want to simplify. Say if something breaks or doesn't do what you expect it to, there's a couple techniques you can do. First of all, you can, for instance, if we put that in there and I just type in return, it used to be easier than it is now. Type in return, that means the rest of the stuff won't run. This function will only run up to here, and we can concentrate on this. So you see how I commented out all the rest of that stuff? That was, to some degree, an act of simplifying, but for a slightly different reason. We better put the stage.update in here, though. And darn it, let's center this circle so that we can see it. So that's circle.center on the stage. Watch various spellings. That's ER, obviously, rather than RE. Color is OR, so the American spelling of color, that type of thing. So stage.update, and we've got a return in there, and we refresh here, refresh. There's just the circle now that we're looking at. We do get this unreachable code after return warning, but you don't need to worry about that so much. So that's how you can simplify. You can just put, if you're in a function, you can just return and not do the rest of the stuff that may be breaking it. And that way you can kind of take this return if you want. You can take it and then just put it under this bit. There we go. And so now we return down there, we refresh here, and well, it didn't make much difference. But now we know this runs without error, etc., etc., etc. And that way you can kind of find where your error is. Better yet, it's rather than code a lot and then check for errors and then have to go hunting in your code as to where your errors are, it's generally a better idea to test often. Like, so write a couple lines or a line or a little, maybe a function, and test often. Sometimes if you've got an event like this, for instance, let's put that return in, just to make it a bit easier to see things. I'll leave, just in case as well, your stage.update, your initial stage.update, you sort of want to keep that at the bottom of things so that anything you're adding in here will be updated. Okay, if you did what I was about to do there, I was about to just come in here, leave that stage.update and start typing in here, then you might forget, oh, that's where I updated the stage, and therefore all this stuff we won't see. So I always keep it in the Zim template. As a matter of fact, there's a stage.update for you right at the very bottom of your ready function. Way down at the bottom there, and then I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so if we were to put an event on the circle, such as circle dot mouse, circle dot on, round brackets, mouse over, comma, function. It calls this function. So there we go. Sometimes, especially if you're just beginning, you really want to make sure your events are working. So you just zog mouse over, mouse over. There we go. Now, it's funny. I know I'm going to remove that, and yet by habit, I'm coming to the end of that to put the semicolon on. I've just finally said to myself, okay, look, anything that I'm just temporarily zogging, I know I'm just going to delete it after. I don't really have to put the semicolon on there. So, I mean, mind you, maybe it's better to keep in practice or something like that, but I've just myself come to be a little bit lazy on that one and say, okay, I know it will run without the semicolon, and so why waste my time every time I do a quick zog like that, because I'm just going to delete it. So here's this quick zog, and this should trigger when we're mouse overing and tell us that the event is good. If we go on and start typing a bunch of code in here, and then it's a little maybe complex and the code's not working and you're scratching your head going, why isn't this code working? Why isn't this code working? And then eventually you found that you forgot the R here or something like this, then you've just wasted a lot of time. You see what I mean? So if you zog, as you're going, you sort of know, you're checking to see if your event is running. So let's check to see if that event is running. So I refresh over here, I roll over, it's not running. So I'm glad I didn't try and do anything complex in here and think that it was in the complex. So we hit the mouse over like that, and now let's see if we got that going. And there's the mouse over. So make sure that your code that you've got, that you're trying to debug, make sure that that code is being run. And that means just put a little zog there. Now, along those same lines, this is my general rule, if you have debugged for more than 5 minutes and cannot figure out why whatever you're trying to fix is not fixing, then immediately think to yourself, am I in the right file? Okay, is what I'm testing the right file? You have to do something. You have to make a change. You have to say, okay, instead of saying mouse over here, I will go JJJ. And then you refresh and you look here and I roll over JJJ. And it's sort of like, yes, what I'm looking at here is indeed what I'm editing here. Especially if you're doing things like, I don't know, like copying code into backup directories and renaming files. And if you're the type that has, 5 versions of your code sitting around in folders named, like old and old and version 4.2 and, all that kind of stuff, you've got to make sure that you're on the right file if you ever spend more than 5 minutes debugging. Okay, keep that in mind. Keep that as a rule for yourself. Because that can be the hardest thing to debug when you're not looking at the right file. Making changes, you're going, where the heck are they? Why isn't this working? I know this is right. All right. So we talked a bit about errors, and if you do have errors and you're not sure where they are, then you just start commenting things out. Just be a little bit careful, because some things, this needs a circle. So if I comment these lines out to see if the error is there, I'm going to get yet another error, and that's saying, hey, circle's not defined. But in general, I suppose you can usually comment the last things you did out, and then keep on going back until you find something that works. And now if this works, but this didn't work, then you know that it's something inside of here that is giving you the error. Now you can also isolate sometimes. You can sort of say, well, there's so much stuff in here. I'm trying to do this radial interface, and these sines and cosines are such a headache. Maybe what you need to do is pull that part out into a new file, even, just a small file where you can kind of clearly test something specific. Okay, and then once you've got it working there, then you can bring it back into your main file. And along those lines, as you're debugging, you do not want to run something, like say you're deep into your code, you've built a lot, and now you're debugging something in your code, and every time you go to test it, you have to run your whole app, and you've got to press through this and that and the other thing, and get here, wait for loading screens, etc. And then finally you check your error, and it's like, oh, still broken. Come back, and every time you're doing that, you're wasting half a minute or a minute or whatever to actually get through. You don't want to be in that situation, so you need to be able to turn things off. Try when you're coding to sort of be a bit modular about it. And if you are in that situation where you're waiting for a long time, you should be able to just go up and comment out the intro animation, or set the time for the intro animation to be 0, that kind of stuff. You should be able to do that. If not, then maybe you can pull it out into another file, and then at least you're not waiting for all this stuff to happen before you get to test this. Make sure your file is saved. I suppose that would be along the same line. In Atom, we've got a blue dot up there. That blue dot says this file is not saved. There's no point in me running my test, my debugging test, if my file's not saved. So hopefully you're in the habit of saving your file. I certainly am. It's just a Control S. So you get into that Control S rhythm. Here we are, just before I test, Control S, that's all. Or Apple S if you're on the Mac. All right, well, some advanced things that you should watch out for are things like memory leaks. So always make sure you sort of test your rollovers and see if you keep your speed up. Watch out for removing event listeners when you don't. You should remove event listeners when you don't need them, especially if you're, say, assigning them a lot. You don't want to ever assign multiple versions of an event listener. So just watch that, and watch things like signing event listeners in loops, so that that's going to make 20 event listeners added or something. All that should be done with one event listener. That can cause memory leaks. Let's see, I thought of another one just as I was talking about event listeners. What the heck was it? Oh, I lost it. Lost it. But those are some tips. I don't know if I got them in particular order, but that's not too bad. Does that help? So that is debugging. I'm still trying to think of that one that I thought of, event listener. There was something to do with that. Ah, crap, lost it. Well, maybe we'll turn to a debugging 2 at some point for special debugging. Inventor Dan Zen with a what is here at zimjs.com. Have a great day.